I cannot wait to step into the octagon against Islam Makhachev and beat him. I know how good Islam Makhachev is. 29-1, a two-weight division champion. He's the most successful lightweight champion of all time. He is tied for the longest consecutive win streak in UFC history. If he wins his next fight, he will break the record.
I'm not saying Ian Garry cannot beat Islam Makhachev, but when you hear Ian Garry say, I want to dominate Islam Makhachev over the course of 4 rounds and then finish him, you can't try to say, I want to beat the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world in a certain round because I don't want it to be a fluke. If you win, it does not matter how you win.
Fight against Islam Makhachev. Do you think you've helped to make that happen?
I know I've earned this fight from fighting, but I absolutely know that my online presence has helped funnel fans into the same mindset. I've earned the fight. I went in and I beat him by 3 rounds. Dominated me, couldn't take me down. The whole point of his game was he couldn't take me down. I'm ready. I've already dreamt, thought, understand what I want to do next, and it's in me. It's that competitive nature, that competitive spirit that I thrive on.
Hey, by the way, before I wrap it up, just back to the UFC for a second. In your old division, or in your division of welterweight, Islam Makhachev takes on Ian Garry, right? I just want to know, from your perspective, do you think Ian Garry's got a shot here to win the belt?
Yeah, definitely. He has a shot, for sure. You know, even though he's a cuck and he sits in the corner of the room and watches his wife get dogged out by the nutritionist, he still has a shot, you know? There's no doubt about it. He's a long, lanky fighter. Islam's getting a little older. Who knows Islam's motivation anymore? You know, he wanted that big money matchup with Ilya, and now that matchup is gone and destroyed forever. So that matchup will never happen. So we just got to see what his motivation level is, you know, and you know, he's going to be a lot smaller than Ian. So, I mean, I think he inflicts his will, and, you know, he takes him down. It makes it a boring fight, but, you know, definitely Ian can win. He has paths to victory on the feet, but we'll have to see what type of evolution he has in his wrestling and jiu-jitsu.
Do you think he respects you as a threat? Do you think he respects you as a fighter?
If he won't, he will. If he doesn't right now, he will when I'm finished the fight with him. And if he doesn't respect me, then he's in for the shock of his life on August 15th.
I have nothing but love and respect for Islam Makhachev, and the body of work that he's done in the UFC is unbelievable. But make no mistake about it, when I fight Islam Makhachev on August 15th, I'm going to beat the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. I'm going to beat the 2-weight world champion. I'm going to dismantle him. And when I do that, there is no doubts. It's undeniable. I will be the greatest fighter on the planet.
And I'm telling you right now, this fight for Islam Makhachev may be a lot harder than what people think. Given all of the accolades that Islam Makhachev has, it's easy to just dismiss Ian Garry and say, listen, he's got to just run right through him. Okay, you could send him to Dagestan or Georgia for 20 years and still forget all about it.
Send him 2-3 years Dagestan and forget.
Okay, because Islam Makhachev is the GOAT. He's going to take him down. The man's Irish. They don't wrestle in Ireland, for crying out loud. Well, guess what? He's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. He's 17-1. He had a very, very close fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov. Ended the fight threatening the rear naked choke. He beat the former champion Belal Muhammad that wrestled the life out of Leon Edwards, okay? So this is a real fight. Before you start to think that this is just going to be one-way traffic, I'm telling you, this is going to be a lot. The record of Islam Makhachev is 28 wins and 1 loss with 18 stoppages. And of course, if he can get a hold of Ian Garry and take him down, yeah, it's probably going to be easy. Ian will struggle to get back to his feet, and I don't think he can match Islam in terms of jiu-jitsu or submission grappling, okay? But it's the style that Ian Garry has. It is the length and the reach that he has, and it is his ability to silence out the crowd and not give a damn if you people are booing. If everyone in the arena is throwing their popcorn and the drinks and going, boo, this is garbage, because all Ian Garry is doing is dancing around, popping the jab, throwing the right hand, using push kicks to keep Islam away, he won't care, because on paper, or according to the judges, he's winning the fight, and his job is to win the fight and become the welterweight champion of the world. But of course, it ain't going to be easy. Islam's going to go forward. I'm just saying, Philadelphia, they've got a real fight on the hand.
He does have the held down for 25 minutes and just having a boring fight. He's a phenomenal wrestler, a phenomenal grappler. And if you allow him the ability to stay on top and utilize his grappling and his wrestling, he can suffocate you and just lie on you like a weighted blanket, and you just find it so hard to move. And I'm like, that's not fun for anyone. It's not fun for me. It shouldn't be fun for him. And it's definitely not fun for anyone watching. So I feel like, and he did that. He did exactly that to win the world title fight. And I feel like that's the worst case scenario.
Do you like him in this fight with Ian? What's the Kalshi trading market here? 72% for Islam Makhachev to win. Ian Garry just 28%. Do you like Ian's path to victory better than that? And if so, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, no, I think it's a tough fight for Ian, but he's also a different type of test for Makhachev. I think the odds should be a little bit closer just because he's really tall. He's not afraid to have a boring fight. Like he will move on you nonstop. He's a little hard to take down. So if he keeps it standing, I think we got an exciting fight. So it's an interesting fight. I think it should be a little bit closer than that.
Most challengers who step up to face Islam Makhachev come in with respect wrapped around their confidence. They acknowledge the champion's greatness in one breath and then quietly talk about their chances in the next. It is the standard dance of fight week. Measured, calculated, careful. Ian Machado Garry is not doing that. What Garry is doing right now is something entirely different, and it is getting the attention of everyone who follows this sport seriously. He is not tiptoeing around the reality of what Islam Makhachev represents. He is walking directly toward it, staring it in the face, and telling the world that the lightweight champion is going to sleep before the final bell ever sounds. That kind of statement from a challenger would normally be filed away as promotional noise, the kind of thing fighters say to sell pay-per-views and generate headlines. But the way Garry has been speaking heading into UFC 330 does not feel like promotion. It feels like genuine belief. And genuine belief from a challenger, backed by the tools to potentially make good on it, is something the combat sports world has learned to take seriously rather than laugh off. The question that serious analysts are now wrestling with is a simple but loaded one. Does Ian Machado Garry actually have the weapons to put the most dominant champion in the world on the canvas? And when you study what Garry brings into this fight with clear eyes, the answer is uncomfortable for everyone who assumed this was a straightforward title defense. Start with the left hand. Garry's left hand is not just a good punch. It is a career-defining weapon that has evolved into one of the most discussed tools in the welterweight division. It arrives from an angle that disrupts defensive timing. It carries genuine stopping power that has already proven itself against credible opposition, and critically, it is most dangerous against opponents who commit to forward pressure, because Garry has developed the timing to catch those opponents in the brief moment when their weight shifts forward and their chin becomes exposed. Islam Makhachev builds his entire game around controlled forward pressure. He walks opponents down. He closes distance deliberately and with purpose. And every step he takes forward is a step toward the exact scenario where Garry's left hand becomes most dangerous. That is not a coincidence. That is a stylistic collision that several respected voices in the combat sports community have been discussing with genuine seriousness as UFC 330 approaches. The concern is not that Islam cannot deal with striking. He absolutely can. His defensive head movement has improved significantly over the course of his championship reign, and his ability to absorb strikes while securing the clinch is well documented. The concern is whether he can deal with Garry's striking specifically, delivered from Garry's range, with Garry's timing, over the course of 5 championship rounds. Because range is the second thing that makes this warning from Garry more than empty words. He is a genuinely long fighter who has learned to weaponize every inch of his frame. He does not simply stand at distance and pot shot. He controls space actively, using lateral movement and foot positioning to keep opponents in the zone where his strikes land cleanly and theirs fall short. For a champion whose grappling requires physical contact to initiate, facing someone who is structurally built to deny that contact is a real tactical problem. Not an insurmountable one, but a real one. Analysts within the combat sports community have pointed out that the fighters who have made Islam work the hardest in his title reign share a common thread. They forced him to solve problems on the feet before he could implement his grappling. They made him earn the clinch rather than receiving it freely. Garry does not just have the tools to do that, he does it naturally, instinctively, as a function of his base style rather than as a specific game plan he has to manufacture. That distinction matters enormously at championship championship level, because game plans break down under pressure. Natural style does not. And then there is the psychological dimension of this moment, which should not be underestimated. Garry is not fighting scared. That much is obvious from everything he has said and done leading into this fight. But more importantly, he is not fighting with the kind of manufactured bravado that experienced fighters can see through immediately. There is a specificity to how he talks about this fight, a clarity about what he intends to do and why he believes it will work. The general sentiment among professionals who have studied this closely is that Garry genuinely believes he has identified something in Islam's game that he can exploit, and fighters who fight with that kind of targeted belief are dangerous in a way that goes beyond their physical attributes. None of this means that Islam Makhachev is suddenly vulnerable in a way he was not before. That framing would be dishonest, and it would disrespect everything the champion has built. Islam remains the most complete mixed martial artist on the planet at this moment in time. His grappling is not simply effective, it is suffocating in a way that drains opponents mentally as much as physically. His ability to chain takedowns after a failed first attempt is particularly relevant here, because Garry will not simply accept being taken down. He will fight the takedown hard. He will expend energy resisting, and Islam is expert at using that energy expenditure against opponents, wearing them down through repeated attempts until the resistance weakens and the fight shifts permanently to the ground. That is Islam's most realistic path to finishing this fight, and it is a genuinely credible one. If he can get Garry to the mat in the first or second round, establish his positional control, and begin working his submission system, the fight changes completely. Garry's striking becomes irrelevant on his back. His footwork means nothing when the cage is pressed against him from the top, and his cardio, while solid, has not been tested at the championship level over 5 rounds in the way Islam's has been tested repeatedly. But here is where this fight gets genuinely fascinating from a tactical standpoint. Garry knows all of that. He is not walking into this fight unaware of where the danger lives. He is prepared specifically for the grappling threat, and the confidence he is projecting right now suggests that the work he has put into his defensive wrestling and his clinch survival has reached a level where he believes he can keep this fight standing long enough for his striking to become the deciding factor. Those who follow the sport carefully are not dismissing that possibility, because if Garry's takedown defense holds up in the early rounds and he starts landing cleanly on the feet, the dynamic of this fight shifts in a direction that nobody has seen Islam face before at championship level. A left hand that drops a champion changes everything in an instant. It changes the crowd, it changes the momentum, it changes what both fighters believe is possible for the rest of the fight, and Garry has the weapon to make that moment happen. What is at stake here transcends the lightweight title, as significant as that is. For Garry, this is the fight that determines whether his entire trajectory has been building towards something real or whether it plateaus against the best competition the sport has to offer. A knockout victory over Islam Makhachev would not just make him champion, it would immediately place him in the conversation for one of the most significant upsets in UFC history. It would validate every bold statement he has ever made and transform the way the sport views his ceiling. For Islam, the stakes are about legacy in the opposite direction. Defeating Garry cleanly and convincingly would add another chapter to a championship story that is already among the most impressive of the modern era. But more than the win itself, it is about how he wins. The combat sports world wants to see how Islam solves the specific puzzle that Garry presents, how he closes distance against a fighter who punishes that movement, how he manages 5 rounds against someone who is not going to wilt under pressure. The prediction here is that Islam finds a way. His championship experience, his grappling depth, and his ability to adapt mid-fight are factors that are very difficult to overcome, regardless of the stylistic challenges a challenger brings. But the prediction comes with a caveat that matters. This fight has a genuine finish possibility for both men, in both directions, and that is what makes Garry's warning feel less like noise and more like something the champion needs to take seriously. So here is what we want to know from you right now. Do you believe Ian Machado Garry's left hand is capable of actually putting Islam Makhachev on the canvas at UFC 330, or does Islam's grappling shut down the striking threat before it ever becomes a real factor in this fight? Leave your prediction in the comments. This is the conversation the MMA world is having right now, and your take belongs in it. And if you want every breakdown, every reaction, and every major story from the world of combat sports delivered the moment it happens, subscribe now, because we cover this sport the way it deserves to be covered.